On May 15th of 2025, after 19 years in education, I broke. Personally, professionally, I shattered. I know what it's like to want to escape my life. The expectations and the busyness can get so much that I don't want to be here. You didn't think I was going to start off a conversation about leadership with this, did you? Sometimes it's the laundry or the dishes or the emails or the abundance of just overwhelming expectations. I can get to the point that I'm stressed out on every day, and I have used lots of different ways to escape. I know that some people use alcohol, some people will over-exercise, some people will scroll. I don't know about you, but that's definitely me. I can get to the point where I just want to eject from whatever circumstance I'm in, and that's what happened on May 15th. I am no longer a teacher. So I've looked for other ways that are a little bit more healthy to go to just want to be where I am. And this is my newfound heaven on earth. I've learned more sitting at this space than I've learned at any teacher conference, any leadership conference, from any management book I've ever read. I learned that Snow White, I don't think, had any magic in her. She just had crumbs in her pocket, because I now have little fellows that come up and spend time with me. But there's this special animal. It's a blue heron. And when I first sat there, I realized how much I desperately wanted to be like this blue heron. It's majestic. I would come and just watch as it was mind-blowing at how beautiful it was when it was flying in. And sometimes it was absolutely majestic. But the thing that I loved the most was when it was not. I just got chills because there were moments where it came and spent time with me, and I spent time with it with no makeup, with no expectations, and we just were there together. And I think I've been more productive sitting with that blue heron on my blanket and my journal, thinking about my life, than I have at any conference I've ever been to. So what does this have to do with leadership? I'm in a lot of leadership roles. I've been a teacher. I'm still an educator. I'm a parent. I'm a yoga instructor. I'm a life coach. I've been a real estate agent. I've been in so many different leadership roles, and I'm 47 years old. I have had a lifetime of an expectation of perfection. Every leadership conference I've gone to, every book I've read, every time that I plan and focus and get up in the morning with my journal, my expectation is that I'm going to get better and better and better and have a positive result or get an award or have a student that has some great success. I'm a researcher. I love research, but these numbers are not fun. In this first survey, it said 75% of employees are concerned about AI. AI and technology keeps coming up in 2025 as a major concern throughout the world. AI, robots, technology taking over jobs. 65% say they're anxious about AI and them losing their jobs. There's the second survey, there was 63% had fear about AI use. 61 will increase burnout. We're not even talking about people afraid of AI coming and taking their jobs or taking away potential jobs for our students. We're afraid of keeping up with AI. It was startling to me. There's 65% of students say that they're stressed every single day. These numbers are staggering. 75% of high school students and 50% of middle school students feel constant stress over homework. So we're having tons of stress in the classroom on the other side of the desk from where I was. I was feeling it on my side of the desk. These are my kids, my own babies. These are our students. These are our future generation of leaders. So why am I bringing up all of this sad news? Well, we can't ignore the data. That blue heron shows up. It shows up rain, storm, sleet, hail, anything. I see a blue heron, and it sometimes looks majestic and it sometimes doesn't. And as leaders, we cannot put our head in the sands and ignore the data. There's a lot of people out there that are looking to us as leaders, and they want us to be able to lead the way, and they're feeling fear. I'm excited about this. There is a solution, according to research. about how we are not doing well as leaders that are striving for perfection. What the data is saying is that leaders that are showing up as authentic are the ones that are making a difference. Psychological safety is the key to leaders bringing hope in a challenging age. This is just one of many of the articles and documents and surveys and studies that I came across that talked about authentic leadership. Okay, so let's get into some specifics because there's a lot of leadership books out there that will talk about transformative leadership or skills approaches or situational leadership. I have had a lifetime of experiences, 47 years. These are just some of the jobs that I've had. One job that I've had in various capacities has been coach. I've coached my son's basketball team. I'm a life coach. I also coached teachers during the pandemic how to include technology and use technology to engage with students virtually. I studied coaches like Phil Jackson and Vince Lombardi. There have been a lot of teachers that I have had the honor of mentoring me. And one way that I developed my skills as a coach was through situational leadership, the situational leadership approach, making sure that whether I'm working with teams or whether I'm working with an individual, I learn them, adapt to their needs and their skills, whether it's something that has an immediate solution or if I need to help them come up with some ingenuity for complex situations. But I really wasn't an effective coach until I learned how to be authentic. I'd like to share with you one example. So during the pandemic, there were a lot of teachers that were feeling very intimidated by technology. When I would teach them technology, I speak about the tabs and click on this hyperlink, and I know all the terminology. And so I was making teachers feel intimidated, and I didn't even know that I was. So I had one teacher where I was explaining something and then I just laughed at myself and I said, you know what? I don't even know what I'm talking about. And I gave this story about going to Boise State University in my first class of coding. And I would have to study before going to class every day just so that I would know what the professor was talking about within the first 5 minutes of class because I was that far behind. And it just was a relief to the teacher and then teachers and then people that I coach when I show up authentically and say, sometimes I don't know what I'm doing. But when I fail, I choose to fail forward. Failure is not something to be ashamed of. Failure is something to learn by. And so as I'm taking the situational approach to leadership, I also teach let's fail forward together. Another example, I loved being a flight attendant. I flew all over the world, especially for Northwest Airlines. And I remember being very much a leader. At 40,000 feet, no one can call 911. If somebody's having a heart attack, you're it. If somebody is having a complete panic attack because people are terrified of flying, you're it. So I learned how to be adaptive. It didn't matter if I had had a heart attack before or not. When someone was having a heart attack, you had a defibrillator and you had to be the nurse or call the doctor or whatever immediately. But when someone was terrified, I didn't need to go get any tools. I definitely needed to just be there with them. When I started being a flight attendant, I didn't know how to adapt to going to Japan, for example. I spoke like this, and I found out that in Japan, like eye contact to elders and speaking in a low voice and not being overly excitable were the expectations. And so I learned to adapt. That's definitely key. However, one of the things that I found out was the more that I showed up authentically, the better flight attendant I became. I had the honor of being the customer service champion one year. And it was after I learned how to show up authentically. So for example, there was this man, he was about 6 foot, I don't know, 7 foot it seemed. And he almost passed out in my arms. And I found out that he was terrified of flying. And instead of just getting him water and telling him to sit down and put his head between his knees like I had been taught, I started talking about my fear of spiders and told him about how I still to this day lift up my toilet seat before ever using a toilet because of the movie Arachnophobia that I saw in, I think, 1996. So it made him laugh. We shared an experience together, and it taught me to find the failure connection. I show up authentically, and when I find the failure connection, we meet on level terms in an authentic space. As a consultant, which I love being a consultant, I used to think that I had all the answers, that I needed to have all the answers, and I needed to give all the answers. So I was a real estate agent, and I was the most horrific real estate agent. I practically gave away money. I didn't know what I was doing, and it helped me understand that we don't always have to know what we're doing. I had to find out who I wasn't to find out who I was. And when I consult now, that's one of my main key things is we can do all of the right things as authentic consultants, but it doesn't matter if you're an expert at all of it. Brene Brown, one of the leaders in this field of study, shows us that when we show up with vulnerability, it helps us find those connections and help. We have to learn who we're not to learn who we are. And showing up authentically as consultants in any organization helps. As a yoga instructor, I love the skills approach because I am inflexible and I forget words when I am doing something important, strenuous especially. And if I remember the right words, I might like fall out of a pose. So I stopped teaching because of how much I feared falling out of a pose. So I decided one day that I was going to just bite the bullet and teach. And I fell out of a pose and I laughed. And the most incredible thing happened. Everyone laughed with me. And at the end of that training, everyone told me that that was one of their favorite times of me instructing. Why? Well, we can learn all the skills. We can show up, do the best that we can, try as hard as we can. But one of the weaknesses with skills is that you're never going to be perfect. If you arrive and claim imperfection, it lets everyone else claim imperfection too. So I learned that laugh when you fall out of poses. It helps everyone else laugh too. Finally, as a teacher, as a transformational teacher, I inspired others. I was told that I inspired others. I couldn't even say how or why. When other teachers would ask me how I did it, I don't know. I somehow have the natural gift of being able to teach. And that's one of the weaknesses when it comes to transformational leadership, is sometimes you can't teach some of the skills, abilities, natural tendencies that a leader has. But I wasn't always effective. And then I had a student who came into class. She one day, first day of school, was incredibly angry and she lashed out at me. And she went down to the office. She took herself down to the office. And instead of calling and saying she needs to go to detention, I called, and the vice principal, I didn't know it, but he put me on speakerphone. And I had said, please, please take care of this young lady. I don't know what's wrong. Please just listen to her and then send her back to me if she feels that she's ready. Please don't send her to detention. Something's going on. Take care of her. So I didn't think anything of it. She came back to my class. 3 years later, she was writing her senior paper. And in her senior paper, she said that that was the first time that she had ever been told that she was wanted. We don't know what the other person is going through. As transformational leaders, we can be inspiring, we can do all of the right things, and we can still say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing if we don't authentically listen, if we don't show up. So I learned to listen to understand, not to teach. If we understand the other person and if they feel heard, then we have even that more ability to teach after they feel understood. So this is all Harvard approved. One of the senior lecturers at Harvard encourages us to, as we face our 2025 challenges, especially with AI and technology and fears, students' high anxiety, employee and worker high anxiety, as leaders when we show up. 3 things. Leadership often involves unlearning established beliefs. That means that we have to show up authentically to ourselves and say we might need to change our own understanding of whatever the topic is, the solution is, the problem is. Leadership risks departure from tradition. That means that if everyone's expectations are A, we might have to encourage them to look at B even if they don't want to. Leadership also involves experimenting in new areas, even without full competence. Leaders can show up without having all the puzzle pieces. We can create the puzzle pieces and find the puzzle pieces together with those that we're working with. Science tells us vulnerability works. Life tells us why. We're not meant to be perfect. We're meant to be present, authentic, and beautifully, messily human. Let us lead the way, but let us lead the way authentically. Thank you.